Hey folks, Frank the Pesky here. Well, I'm starting to do podcast again, and you're going to see next Wednesday, whichever it is, we're at the middle of June. So next Wednesday, I'm going to have a podcast out on recovering from burnout. And actually, you would have seen that first before you've seen this. So if you didn't see it, you haven't heard it. Um, how do you recover from burnout, from severe trauma, from total chronic fatigue and complete exhaustion after, even PTSD. Um, and I had to deal with it, recovered from it, still recovering, although I'm back to working what appears to be normal hours for most human beings, which is about 40 to 50 hours a week. I was down working to about 8 hours a week. It was so bad. And as a result of that, by the way, I'm going to be smoking a Gurkha 30th anniversary. And with now I forgot what this is. This is a Glendalough multi-cask. I think this is a cherry cask single malt scotch. This is good. So, and the Gurkha, Gurkha 30th anniversary. Nice fatty. I got to get me a new lighter because this torch, I don't know. There we go. Nice toasted footer. Little peppery on the draw. The little peppery. It'll start out that way. It'll mellow out. This is a good, for me, it's a good mild to medium cigar. Wow, it's really peppery on the start. Having a lot of conversations over the last year, God draws people to me that are going through the same stuff, so I can not only understand that a lot of people are dealing with stuff, but also how to help them as I'm going through it. I can understand, I can have empathy, I can have sympathy, I can have more compassion, I can be kinder, to understand that what people are going through. It helps me in my business better because now when a customer is upset, I can always say, I wonder what that person is going through that they're like this, and then figure out a way to either diffuse the situation. I've always been great at that because I'm pretty calm. I mean, you see me as an intense guy. Some people think, I'm a prick. Some people have called me, you're a dick. And they hear my Cuban Miami accent, which is part, New Jersey. For those of you that are from Jersey, I did a lot of work in the Northeast for, a decade. I dealt with people in Maine, Boston, New York. I sold in the toughest neighborhoods in Brooklyn, the Bronx. So I've got this tough skin that I not only developed because of my background, the city I grew up in, Miami, but also my life, my history. I mean, I grew up without a father, the son of a single mother, cancer patient from the time I was 10 till I was cleared at 18. Never went to high school, never set foot in a high school, never set foot in a middle school. I was homeschooled. So the way people are is a complexity of both genetics, it's both nature and nurture. And I'm very complex in that situation because I am very highly sympathetic, empathetic. Um, I really do feel what people are feeling, which has always made me a great salesperson because I can put myself in my customer's shoes. I can really feel the pain they're feeling, understand them, and I try to, and I'm understanding about everybody around me. The problem always arises is twofold, that people misunderstand my meekness for weakness, my kindness for an opportunity to take advantage of me, and then when I have to be firm and I have to stand up to people and tell them to their face they're full of crap, and that I know I'm not going to accept their behavior, I'm all of a sudden an asshole because you're used to the mild mannered guy. I'm loud. Even my girlfriend. My girlfriend says I'm embarrassingly loud sometimes. Um, she's Hispanic also. She's Puerto Rican, but you would never guess by looking at her because she's really white. She doesn't speak loud. Um, so I'm unapologetically loud. I'm a big mouth. I'm outspoken. I'm incredibly candid and transparent with people. And as I get older, I'm becoming more candid and more transparent to the point I'm unapologetically candid and transparent. And instead of doing what I used to do when I was young in my 20s, where sometimes I would just hold things in and then blow up, I've learned in my late 20s, after 25, just to be open, transparent, candid with people, tell it like it is, tell it right there on the spot, and deal with it. And people had to deal with me. This is becoming a little milder. It's really good. So in my business, my employees, you know, will complain all the time that I spoil my customers too much. The reason I have the clientele that I have is because I know how to manage them. I know how to sell to them because I'm dealing mostly with high-powered people, multi-million-dollar actors and singers, business people, people who are engineers, who are CPAs, accountants, financial advisors. These are all high-power people who are used to getting their way, and I know how to manage them, and I know how to take them off their high horse very quickly, let them know that I'm in charge, and that I'm the one that's going to handle this, and that they got to trust me. So when I deal with people like that, most of my employees don't have that experience or expertise. They don't know how to deal with people like that. They're either technical people who are introverted and think that saying yes sir and no sir to everything everybody wants and being a yes man is how I keep these people. But then they don't see me in action when I have to have the hard conversations with my clients. And I try to let them know, and managing those relationships, handling different personalities, handling salespeople who are lions, and most of my technical people that I deal with are lambs. They're good lambs. They're good, they're good people, but they just don't have the fortitude to deal with a lot of these customers. So I have to intervene a lot between the technician and the client. By the way, if you've never read the book, the E-Myth. I battle three people inside of me. I battle the technician entomologist side of me that wants everything entomologically perfect. I am battling the manager inside of me that says, you can't let things get out of hand because if they do, you've got to deal with them. I'm dealing with the entrepreneur sales part of me that says, I just want to go out there and sell the crap and grow the business and expand. And all three are battling inside of me. And I got to decide when I let one of those win. At what point do I balance it? Do I manage it? Do I say, look, right now I'm at a point in my life where I know who I am. I'm happy with who I am. I'm happy with who I've become. I'm happy in my own skin. I know that when I open up those windows and I go out selling, I go crazy and my people can't keep up. I can't find people to work. I can't hire all the technicians I want because when you're growing a business, it is cash intense and you're going to burn through an enormous amount of cash. And then I have to get credit lines and I'm battling all of this inside of me. And everybody has to deal with that. Everybody has to battle that. There is the guy who's the narcissistic entrepreneur, and he's going to ignore all the human side of this and say, that's why I hire managers to take the heat, and I hire technicians to take the crap, and I hire CSRs to take the crap, and I just don't care. And I deal with a lot of those people, and I dealt with them, and they've grown very successful business at the price of everybody else. My ministry, human side of me says, I can't let my people go through that. I don't want them to go through that. I got to protect them from that. And the business itself has an enormous amount of pressure already that is automatically built in. I don't want to add to it by allowing everyone to be my customer. And these people have to take the attitude of unrealistic, bratty customers that confuse quality service and customer service and attention into abusiveness because they're expecting I put the order in on Instacart on my app and the guy brought the wrong eggs. I'm going to complain, give him a bad review, and not give him a tip because he brought the wrong eggs. I just ordered an Instacart last week. I told him not to replace any products. I canceled the products I didn't want to replace, and he accidentally brought me the wrong yogurt. So it was $12 worth of yogurt. You know what I did? I took the yogurt and I chucked it in the garbage can, and I went to the store and bought me the yogurt I wanted. That's it. I'm not going to write the guy a bad review because he screwed up my order. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to be pissed. Oh, this guy brought me the wrong yogurt. Damn it. These people can't do anything right. I chucked the yogurt. It's $12. Is $12 worth of yogurt worth me getting upset over it, losing my focus, losing my peace, losing my zen, not showing fruit of the Spirit, not caring about it? And you know what? Next time I just tell them, hey, man, just don't substitute anything, please. Make sure don't substitute. If it's not there, just cancel it. It's okay. And that's it. And these people that expect because they put something in on an app that people behind it don't make mistakes, and they have this enormous inability to handle this imperfection. Like I had this lady the other day I was at, I forget which restaurant. I think it was over at Panera. And I eat there once to 3 times a week. And she had placed her order, and they sent her a text that the order was ready. She shows up to the counter out of her car, and the order wasn't ready. She chewed the person out because she's a doctor and she just got off a 20-hour shift and she's exhausted. And she decided she's going to treat this person who's making $12 an hour who isn't responsible for how the food comes out, and if the text was sent and accidentally the order wasn't exactly ready, and she chewed this person. The guy standing next to me says, he makes the comment, and I cracked up. He says, "Take your camera out. We got a Karen moment." And everybody feels that they can just berate everybody because everything didn't, the experience I had wasn't exactly how I envisioned it, how your marketing people wrote it, how it was supposed to happen, because marketing people's job is to create an image and a brand. And what are you going to do? We get it wrong 2/3 of the time, or we get it wrong 95% of the time, or we get it wrong 5% of the time, and 95% of the time you're going to be inconvenienced? That's the problem with marketing. You create an unrealistic expectation, but that's what people want. Because if you're honest and you're transparent and you're candid with people in the marketing, nobody will call you. People want to be sold a bill of goods. Listen, I just had $1,000 bad experience with a company. Everybody says you got to delegate and you got to find a company and you got to do this and you got to do that. You know how hard it is to find a garage? I called 3 garage door companies because I bought this place and they had converted the garage into a room and they had put up a wall and I needed to convert it back to garage. Took down the wall, discovered I have a massive leak. A massive leak that was actually covered up by that wall and couldn't tell it was there. It must have been going on for 2 years. So I said, great. So we're in the rainy season now, and buckets are falling through my garage that I couldn't hear before because it was well insulated, well done. So I call my brother-in-law. He's a roofer. He says, "Bro, I'll be there tomorrow. Take a look at it." "Frank, this is going to be about $2,400. I'm going to do it for you for $1,500. But this is 3 guys and half a day's worth of work. I just can't get to it until it stops raining. I can't open up this roof." So I'm saying, "Okay, wait, no problem." Buckets are falling through my roof, literally buckets of water. He gets the roof fixed. I call out this garage door company. I call 3 of them. Nobody shows up. Nobody calls me. One company decides we're going to be there tomorrow. I said, "Listen, I would want you to do it. Okay, how quickly can you do it?" And says, "Well, I'm going to go. I'm going to send the we're going to send the tech out." Call center, typical call center person, CSR. "We're going to send the tech out right away. The tech is going to be there tomorrow." I said, "Great." I'm not home. I'm out doing service. My girlfriend's here. She's working from home, and she's decided to stay here at the house and work from home. "Hey, can you handle this for me?" The guy shows up. 5 minutes later, calls me. He says, "Frank, it's going to be $900 and something dollars." I said, "Great. Can you get it done right now? Do it. You're the only guy that showed up. I don't care what it costs. I want it done. I just want it fixed." All he needed to do was put a top rail. I know what the parts cost. $150 worth of parts. The guy charges me $1,000. I don't care. I want it done now. I called 3 other companies. You know how hard it is? I got to call 15 companies to get somebody to answer the phone. It'll take a week for them to send out a technician because the technician is a solo operator and he's booked to here. Send me out the company. I don't care what it costs. I want it done now. He says, "Well, it's not that simple. We got to order parts." Bro, it's BS. "How long?" "It won't be done till next Wednesday." I said, "Crap. I want this thing done quickly so I can convert my garage." I wait a week. Call the guy. Says, "Bro, you told me Wednesday. Nobody's here." "Well, I'm the salesman. I'm not the technician." I says, "But wait a minute. You told me you were the technician. The CSR says they were sending out a technician." This is the problem in the service, that they send out salespeople disguised as glorified technicians. They don't know shit. Call Wednesday. They call me that I called the salespeople. Says, yeah, they're going to be there tomorrow. They're going to be there tomorrow. I get a call on Wednesday. "Oh, the technician is not going to be there to make it till it was supposed to be for Thursday, but the technician is not going to be there because he had a car accident and blah, 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 and we need to reschedule for another day." "What other day?" I said, "Well, Friday's fine." Talk about being pissed. You're charging me $1,000 The reason I had you come out is because you told me you could get it done that same day. The CSR says, yeah. We're sending out a technician. He's going to be able to do it the same day. Week later, now it's Friday. The guy shows up. I said, hey, listen, I got to go run around town. I'll be in this area. Have the technician give me a call 30 minutes before he's on his way so I can meet him here. It's going to be sometime between 10 and 12. I said, excellent, no problem. I'm flexible. Technician calls me at 9:38. He says, I'm here. He says, what do you mean you're here? You're supposed to call me 30 minutes before. I'm 12 minutes away. You're going to have to wait for me. The guy shows up in a Honda Civic, pulls a little ladder out of his car. All his tools are there, and he pulls these brackets out. And he starts to, I'm expecting a full, for the price they're charging me, I would have expected same-day service, which was my mistake. I should have just canceled them. But here's the problem. If I cancel that guy, now I got to wait another week. There's nobody to perform services. It's a mess. So I'm getting red and upset just remembering this. I mean, I'm going to need therapy after this. I'm going to need to go call my therapist. And I don't have a therapist. Guy shows up. He's getting it done. He's done in 45 minutes. I go in there. He had attached one bracket like this from an overhang, another bracket like this, and the thing was hanging out at the end. And I look at that and I'm like, this ain't right. It took 45 minutes, $140 worth of products, and he's charging me $1,000. I called the company. I said, I paid the bill, and then I called the company, and I'm trying to get a hold of customer service. Customer service doesn't answer on a Friday afternoon. They're observing their Sabbath. I said, no problem. I left a message. I didn't know this. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm calling him. You're the next customer in line. Estimated time is 2 minutes. 20 minutes later, nobody comes on the phone. I call again. By this time, I've made 4 calls, and I spent an hour on the phone, and nobody calls me back. I called sales department. I called the sales number. They pick up instantly. Pick up instantly. And I said, listen, I'm having this problem. This is installed wrong. This is no way. I do pest control. I own a service company. And I see at least 100 garages a month. I know this isn't installed right. I need a manager. They're going to call you right back. Sales department. Nobody calls me back. About 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I get a call from a customer service saying, hey, I'm calling to find out how the installation went. I said, what do you mean calling how the installation went? You got a CSR doing a follow-up call to see if the customer's satisfied. I pull out for that. I tell her my story. I tell her I'm upset. I said, can you please send me a service manager to look at this? This isn't installed right. As a matter of fact, the tech took a picture of it. It should be in the profile. You can see that isn't installed right. I come and tell her, listen, for the price you guys charge me, I would expect the same day service. Because I could have called 7 others, negotiated this price down to $395, $400, and I would have gotten it for $400. It just isn't worth my time. Oh, they're going to call you, except right now they're closed. Their hours, they close early on Fridays. They're closed on Saturdays. Earliest we have is Sunday. Great, I'm here Sunday. I will take off from going to church on Sunday, and I will be here, and I expect the service manager to come, and I expect them to send me a technician. Well, they're just going to call you to find out what they're going to do, and then they'll decide. I waited here Sunday all day. Nobody called back. You know what I decided to do? I decided that I can fix what they did wrong, in an hour. I can go buy the parts, which will cost me $15, $20. Install it right. As a matter of fact, I'm going to buy the door seal, new door seal. I'm going to buy new rollers. He tells me, by the way, your rollers are shot. You need new rollers. The ones on the bottom, they got wet because of all this rain and rusted them. Put WD-40 on it. I said, look, for $1,000, I would have expected to get new rollers. I would have expected a new seal underneath and the track, and should have been done right. And yet it wasn't. I'm still waiting for customer service to call me back. Leaving this company a bad review is going to be nothing, because they're going to hire a company to remove the 5-star, because they're a marketing company. They send me a guy out, you know, on the Civic with tools, no company on the logo. They're subcontracting it out, and they're a marketing company. You want to get rich in pest control? This is what you do. You want to get rich in any service business? This is what you do. You screw your employees over, you screw people over, and you erase everything, and you don't call people back, and you say screw it to everybody, and you'll get rich. This is what people do in Miami. And this reminded me, and I sat there and I said, no, this is what I know that the large companies are doing. This is how you stress people out. This is how you rip people off, not giving them value, and then screw it and have the narcissistic, sociopathic tendency to say screw it. And this is exactly what we've never been. Why I fired a $739 a month customer that I've had for 3 years, because of their attitude towards milking us, treating my people bad, being totally unrealistic. After the fact that we've serviced them every single time they called, to the point that they're now calling every week and expect us to be there on a weekly basis at their house. Now, I don't know about you. There isn't a single pest problem that they're having that they needed us there every week. But they decided, since we have unlimited callbacks and they know we will go and we will not complain about it and we will do it cheerfully, they took advantage of it. To the point it says, bro, I'm coming here, there's nothing. They're hearing, they saw a rat on the roof. They're hearing, they have, this is a place, by the way, this place is a jungle. I'm going to go back to my story. But I'm segueing here to give you the analogy. We do their lawn. This is a 33,000 square foot house. Lot that is a jungle with 90 palm trees on it. When we took over that account, they already had fired 3 companies. They had 4 rat stations. We put out 12 the first month, and within a week we followed up on it, and the rat stations were all empty. 12 stations, completely full, wiped out. We go back now, 2 years later, 3 years later, the bait goes bad and we have to replace it, and we have 2 blocks on each station, and they go moldy and they get thrown because the rodents don't even eat them. There's no rodents on them. They've got raccoons and they've got everything on that property. We don't handle that. It's a jungle. It's on the beach, waterfront property. Home is worth about $5 million, about 5,000 square feet. We do mosquito service for them. When we took it over, you couldn't walk in that place. You get bit by mosquitoes while you were performing the service. We go there now, there isn't a single mosquito. Even in the rainy season, there's no mosquitoes. We upgraded them from doing a bi-weekly spray to into care and bait, and they don't have a mosquito problem anymore. They called and complained because they had a mosquito in the house and they wanted me to get rid of the mosquito in the house. There's no ants. There used to be ghost ants everywhere. They got roaches. Well, I've been telling them about the condition of the home that needs repairs, because this isn't a new home. This is a very old home. I showed them where all the lights coming into the room. They have this giant room in the back where they keep all of their refrigerators and walk-in freezers. And this was built, and you can see light coming in. And I said, look, all the roaches are in this room is because of those holes. You need to just seal it. You need to pay us to seal it, or you need to seal it. For 3 years, I've been telling them this. The doors are open every single day in the kitchen and in the laundry room in the back, because it gets hot in there, and the cook staff need to get cooled down. They got a fully staffed. They've got a butler, they've got a cook, and they've got a person that sets up for the meals, chef. They've got An outdoor a guy butler that takes care of all the grounds people, the maintenance, landscaping, pool. He deals with all of that, and I deal with him. And then they've got the accountant in the house, which pays all the bills for the company, and he works from there. Every month for the last 3 years, that bill is 60 to 90 days late. By the way, they get a monthly bill. They get an email bill, they get a text, the accountant does, and when it's 45 days due, they get it in the mail, and the account gets shut off. At that point, I override it, and we still go service them. And we call the guy, and he doesn't answer. Yet, miraculously, every time they need a call back, we service them. And he calls me personally that says, hey, I'm having trouble. I says, wait a minute. How is it that you send me a text when you're having trouble, but when I send you a text about the bill, you don't even bother to respond? That's kind of disrespectful, don't you think? The owner of the home is a Spanish singer, multi-million-dollar platinum album guy, who I've talked to a couple times, so I know. Super nice guy. The wife hired us because she doesn't want any chemical on the property. She doesn't want sprays and synthetics. She wants the eco-friendly stuff. I explained to him on day one when I did the inspection of that home personally, to the accountant who pays the bill, who I sent the contract to. I said, listen, unless you keep these doors closed, unless you fix these problems, you're going to have problems in the home. So this day, none of that has been fixed 3 years later. Yeah, we still service them. We put up with it for 3 years. He calls me and I just feel that I need a weekly service and I need you guys out here. And he told the butler, says, no, you call them as many times as you need to for everything, they'll come. I mean, that's the expectation. I never set that expectation. It was a once a month service. I increased during the summer their mosquito service as a courtesy to twice a month because, and when they called and they were having parties because they have this party barn, to spray for mosquitoes when they're having party as a courtesy. And now the butler is calling me every week because they saw one American roach in the house, in the same place where they always see it. I said, when do you use these bathrooms? Well, we don't hardly use them. I said, I told you a number of times that unless you run water to these, this is a very old home, you've got steel pipes, they're going to come up through the sewer, you got to run water through them. Okay. I'm hearing something on the roof. I need you to come and find out what it is. You got raccoons. You've got lizards that are this big. You know, they've got iguanas all over the place. We can't solve iguana problems. One time we did because we used nature's defense and we wiped them out. We don't see iguanas anymore. That could be an animal. It says you don't have any rats in the attic. We put up stations. We were there weekly, not caught a single rat in the attic. It's not in your attic. It's on your roof that they're climbing on. And animals are climbing. We don't know if it's cats. We don't know what it is. Second story. You got surrounded by 100 trees. Things are jumping off the trees onto your roof. There's nothing in your attic. To the point, the problem with the butler is, and this is going to sound terrible as a Hispanic, but I'm a Hispanic. I'm Cuban. And I understand Central and South America, 65% of our market is Hispanics. Okay, so we live in Miami-Dade County, 65% of the population is Hispanic. This is not an American city. Okay? You got Cubans, Nicaraguans, Argentinians, Colombians, Brazilians. Chances are, if I run into a customer, 65% of my database is Hispanic. The problem with Hispanics that are rich, that you come from Central and South America, is that they can hire a whole staff of people in their home for peanuts. And whatever they say goes. When people say jump, they say how high and how long do you want me to stand here? Because you're paying me. There is a sort of paternal, patriotic, whatever you call it in the home. I forgot the word now. Whatever I say goes in my home. And the butler, the mayordomo of the home, that's what he calls it. Yo soy el mayordomo de, so, and it's a pretty big title for them. When you come from nothing and you're all of a sudden, in charge of everything in that home. And he has to give an account for everything that happens. Granted, this guy, he is a former agricultural sprayer in Venezuela. He sits there and lectures me on how he feels that I should be doing my pest control. Because if we were spraying everything weekly, we would not have all these problems. As understand, this is in agriculture. There's no need to spray all these trees. They say, we installed a bunch of new plants and we need you to come and spray them now. Because we don't want them to get it. I said, listen, I go there once a month, I inspect everything, I treat. It's an IPM service, and I try to explain to him what IPM is, goes right over his head. The owner of the home, the lady, doesn't want us spraying this with toxic chemicals because she hired us because of the eco-friendliness of our program. That's what we sold her. So we can't do this. You have no mosquitoes. You're seeing one roach, and every time I go, the door is open. They leave the doors open in the back so the dogs can come in and out whenever the dogs want to. Because that's what the lady wants. It says she can't have it both ways. She can't say, I want eco-friendly, and then say, I don't want to see a single thing living in a jungle with a home that has 100 entry points and it hasn't been fixed in the last 3 years. You need to tell her that. Of course, he can't tell her that and look at her face and say that to her because he would get fired. The accountant can't say that because he would get fired. I've never had an opportunity to talk to her. She's never there. He's never there because he's always traveling, doing 100 concerts a year. So I'm dealing with an ignorant agricultural guy who's used to spraying chlorpyrifos on everything and then going into a home and thermal fogging a home in Central America and South America to control mosquitoes, because that's what they do. If you're in an undeveloped country, you understand about thermal fogging inside a home. You guys listening to me right now are going to gasp. But this is what I have to do all the time, educating people. And this is why I'm good at educating people, because I have to repeat myself 100 times a day. I don't have a problem repeating myself 100 times a day. I have a problem repeating myself 100 times to the same person when I have to keep dealing with people who are no-pos. What is a no-po? A person that has no power. Their job is to be a punching bag for everybody, take and basically tell other people what they're going to do, and if they don't do it, they get fired. And I am a guy who I will try to explain it to, I will try to make you understand, I will point it out to you. And then it's going to get to the point where if you're just not going to listen, I have to get rid of it. It's like same with employees. I have no problem sitting there and training people and explaining it over and over and over until they get it. When they're willfully, and there's a difference between being ignorant and stupid. I can overcome ignorance with education. You choose to be voluntarily stupid and remaining there when you refuse to say, so he's telling me, no. Because in my country, I sprayed every week and I had no bugs. It says in your country, you can get away with that. And in your country, your people don't make anything. And they're basically this much above from being a slave. In this country, what you're asking me for a 7th-door Bentley, and I will sell it to you, and I will do it, but now you can't tell me that you want to be eco-friendly too. And when the lady asked me, what are you spraying? I said this because your butler told me to do this. How do I explain it to the state and the government and your boss that you're telling me to do something that goes against what they want? Of course, they're not going to tell that to them, but they're going to give them their version. I don't know what version they're getting. I'm in the middle. So this $739 a month client The home and the mosquito alone is $400 a month. Home and mosquito. That house is $200 a month for mosquito and $159 a month with rodents and pest control. I told my tech, I said, bro, and I communicate with my techs and I talk to them because it's going to affect his income. And I said, bro, I'm thinking of firing this customer. What do you think? And I said, bro, every time I go to that house, I want to punch that guy in the face. He talks down to me, and when somebody is mistreating your employees because this is the way they think it's done in their country. We're in America. My employee doesn't have to put up with abuse. Nobody has to put up with abuse, and I won't allow it as an employer. I don't abuse my people. I say, bro, this is the reason why we have to do it this way. We can't violate the law. We can't violate our integrity. We can't violate our promise to the client. And what he's asking, he's having you there now go every week. And he says, well, I'm tired of calling every week. I want a weekly service. The reason is he wants a weekly service. So he just felt he had unlimited callbacks. So and he says he comes, he treats the inside of the house, but he doesn't spray the outside again. When I ask him, I says, because I already did the service this month. There's nothing out there. I can't stop it. And he tells them the reason you got these bugs in the house is because you leave the doors open. Well, of course, he doesn't want to hear that from a tech because a tech is not supposed to talk back to the person and tell them why the reality is. He calls because he has found mosquitoes in the house. And he wants me to treat the house for mosquitoes inside. I said, I have to fog the house and everybody has to leave if you want that. Oh, no, you got to find another way. Now you're being totally ignorant and unreasonable. And I'm explaining to him why I can't do this. He doesn't want to hear it. So after about a 25-minute conversation with this accountant, which is the business manager, whatever, for all his businesses, I said, let me think about it, what I'm going to do, and I'll call you back. So after totally being indignant after a 25-minute conversation, 3 years of dealing with this, him being late, he says, the reason that our bill is late is because we get these zero invoices and we don't know what we have to pay. I says, you get a monthly bill. I told you many times, just put a card on file. You will ignore my text telling you, and I send you your bill, and you get the bill every month. That's the bill you pay, the one you get sent with the balance. If you're an accountant, you know this. You don't pay zero invoice bills. The reason they get a zero invoice bill because every time pest routes, we do a service, it sends a zero invoice to the client. I don't know why on a reservice, which is tagged as a reservice, it's a non-subscription service, it sends a zero invoice. So that was his excuse. So I said, let me think about it. I'm totally indignant. I'm driving, it's raining, we're done for the day. I go to eat, I'm upset of having this conversation because this deeply bothers me, having these antagonistic conversations with people. Because of the burnout, because of all the stress I went through, there are triggers now that when I'm dealing with these unsavory, unfruitful conversations, I get insomnia. I can't sleep at night. When I got to make this, so I learn now just make the decision quickly so I don't lose sleep. And I'm having dinner, and I said I'm going to have a glass of wine, and I'm going to have a soup, and I'm going to have a light salad. Immediately, my stomach gets upset. I felt like I'm going to throw up. I got to get home. I'm taking antacids. I wake up at 1 in the morning. I get insomnia now, and I can't sleep till 6 in the morning. I slept until about 9. I got to get up, and I got to in payroll, and I got to get everything taken care of, and I got to go on the road. I just wrote the guy an email, and I said, I'm sorry. We're no longer a fit. We can't service you the way you expect. I apologize for our lack of service. I took the responsibility and made it our problem. And I said, unfortunately, we cannot satisfy you. We can't serve you. I'm going to cancel the agreement on you, and I'm going to refund you last month's bill, and we're done. Guess what? I slept like a baby. My stomach has been upset for 2 days. Everything I eat gives me an upset stomach. But this has been going on now for a whole year, ever since the old guy, that used to be a butler, great guy, great human being. We had a great relationship. I would talk to him. He would just call me when he had a problem. He was calling me, hey, when next time you're here, we saw a couple of roaches in the house. Can you treat it? Now, mind you, we're using baits. They don't want spraying in the house. It's going to take 7 to 10 days for a roach to find a bait and die. We would service it maybe every 2 months inside the house. Every 2 to 3 months, they would call it. This guy's not calling every day. The older guy died of COVID. And I was really sorry about that because we had to build a great relationship. And this new guy came in and he thinks he's God's gift to the butler business. So there are a couple of verses in the Bible that are key for me, that every time I ignore them, I pay a heavy price in my soul, in my spirit, in my physical. Scripture says that sorrow dries up the bones. If you're in a contentious relationship with your spouse, your significant other, the woman you're sleeping with, call it whatever you want. If there is contention, it eventually affects you emotionally, spiritually, and then it starts affecting your work. If you're in a partnership, I'm dealing with people who've been in partnerships who got screwed, and they're going through the same. They got stomach problems. They're getting viral problems all the time. They're getting sick. They're burned out. They've been admitted to the hospital. I'm talking to these people now. I just had a call from a young man. He's a kind Christian young man. And he says, Frank, I'm thinking of selling my business. What can I get for it? How do I market it? And I start talking to him about the process of selling. It's a small business. He probably doesn't have more than $150,000 a year in revenue. It's not going to be worth much. Then I see a post that he was burned out. He had unrealistic expectations. People had unrealistic expectations about him. He had unrealistic expectations about the business. He was pushing himself too hard. And he needed to take a week away, spend some time with God, and get perspective so that he can come back and do what he loves, because he loves the business. He loves the industry. I called him and I said, bro, here's my number. Call me. Let's do a podcast together about that experience. There's so many people going through that. I went through it. Not everybody has the DNA to build a big business because of the things that you have to do, of the hard pills you got to swallow, of self-limiting beliefs that you have to overcome, which I've had plenty. And everything revolves around relationships. So sorrow dries up the bones. The blessing of the Lord makes you rich and doesn't bring sorrow with it. So you have to analyze that every time that you're experiencing sorrow over something is because that's not a blessing of the Lord. Don't confuse that with hard work. I don't mind putting in 80 hours a week. And 80 hours a week for me flies because I'm doing what I love. It's when I have to deal with sorrowful decisions that I made. I hired the wrong person. That's on me. Now I have to fire that person, and that affects their life. No, they fired themselves. No, I made a wrong hiring decision. I saw things in that person that I knew wouldn't work out in the long term, but because I needed a warm body, I hired them anyway. And what we got to do is we got to find people who are a fit for our personality, our style, our management. Most people have never managed people. I have. But I ignore the signals. You ignore the warnings, the red flags in the relationship. You ignore the warnings when you're selling the account because your salesman kicks in, and when you hire a salesman and he needs to make $300,000 to $500,000 a year in revenue, you can't muzzle an ox while he's trading. That is a biblical. So you have to have the infrastructure to be able to hire, because he's going to grow that business, and you can't muzzle an ox while he's treading. Biblical principles. Sorrow dries up the bones. Don't overwork to become rich. You're putting in too many hours, neglecting your home, neglecting your kids. I never did. Everything I did worked around me, my family. The way I structured my business was to make sure that nobody was neglected. You can't be all things to all people. And we all have to struggle with those decisions. These are tough decisions. The problem that you have is you have the glorification of entrepreneurship, where you have all of these marketers and people selling courses on how to run successful business. The problem is they've never actually run a business. They are consultants to consultants who are consulting other people on how to be consultants. That's literally the game now. You can't hack it in the real world, so you become a consultant. I had a guy who told me he burned out and he became a consultant to dads. And I said, listen, I went through all that. I barely work 30 hours a week now. I got more time than I know what to do with. I made more money in the last year than I did in the previous 5 years. And I worked half the time. I honestly don't need your service. Thank you. Everybody's going through this. What you have is people selling you a pipe dream of what entrepreneurship is. We're not selling, if you're selling software and you're selling courses, yeah, it's easy to scale. It's easy to scale. When you're talking about traditional brick and mortar businesses and traditional service business, the average business makes no more in America. The average small business makes in America no more than $500,000 a year at their best. They're under 5 employees. For a pest control business to do over $1 million and have over 10 people, you have to play the game. Lately, we decided I'm going to be a salesman again. I'm going to put on my salesman hat. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to sell it. I'm going to service as much as I can, build it up, and I'm hiring already by the end of the year. After the summer, I'm going to build round number 3 up again, and I'm going to be a salesman. But all this experience, all this last week, in the last 2 weeks, made me realize the company I don't want to be like. So then I put safeguards in place so I don't become that company. Having a conversation with a young man who's been having a great relationship for the last 2 years. He's become a great friend. He's one of those guys that calls me every single day to see how I'm doing. But he's a shark. Let's not kid ourselves. He's a way better salesperson than me. But part of what makes him a great salesperson is that when he's in sales mode, he's a shark. He's a lion. He does not care about whether you can afford it, whether you want it or not. He's going to be a salesman. And he's got his own history of why he's that way. And I've been ministering to his life because he's riddled with anxiety all the time. And I deal with so many people who are riddled with anxiety. And I've been riddled with anxiety, and I learned how to manage it so I don't have anxiety anymore. So I deal with the anxiety. I make better decisions. I learn to manage that lamb in me and learn to manage that lion. And inside of me, there's both a lamb and a lion. And you feel like, the way you talk, Frank, like you're schizophrenic. The problem is everybody that I know in business is that way. Everybody's going to battle that. You realize that you've got a lamb and a lion. And if I got to grow my business, I need to hire people that are somewhere of a tiger more than a lion. Who can stand up to the client, but can be that entomological person, who can upsell the client, and who can be a little bit. But I really need a person. I just talked to the same young man who called me and says, what do you think, bro? I'm going to hire this guy He's a former manager at a hotel. And I said, well, bro, he's got all the skills that you need. Now you just need him to do pest control. Can he handle the physical work? Calls me, says, bro, this guy's been working for me for a couple months now, I think 2 months. Bro, he's amazing. I don't have to, he rarely calls me. I rarely have to deal with any problems. He learns quickly. He got there early. And I told him to go home. He says, no, I'm going to clean the truck. I'm going to organize it for Monday so that everything is organized. And I'm ready to go. You need to hire people who are managers to run routes. The way I look at my every route now, and I've always looked at it that way, but I'm more honed into this, is that I got to hire a guy who has management skills, even though he doesn't know he has management skills. My technician has management capabilities, but he's so young that I have to nurture him a lot. But he learns, and he learns quickly. That truck has 50-something, that's going to have 60,000 miles on it. It's 3 years old now. Everything I go there is organized. It's always clean. It's a little dirty sometimes outside. So, hey, Ben, how long is it, bro? It's been busy. I haven't washed it. But inside, I took it the other day. I said, I'm going to go do a service, and I'm going to need your truck. I took it. I inspected the whole truck. I threw out his trash because he's got a little trash bucket in the front seat, and he puts all his trash in there. I didn't have to clean it inside. I didn't have to organize anything inside that truck. I went ahead and I brought it home, and I took some stuff out that I said, look, we're going to streamline this a little bit more. We're going to get rid of some products so you don't have to use so many products. We're going to use less products, make it more manageable for you. I took this stuff out. You'll have more room to put in stuff like stations when you need it. You'll have more room for stations. It doesn't have a single scratch on it. That truck has no scratches on it because he takes care of it like if it was his own. He manages it. He's working 30-something hours a week. He's going to college. He's making 40-something thousand a year. On average, he makes between $7,000 and $1,000 a week almost. He lives at home, and he's a good kid. I say he's a kid because he's 25. Anybody who's 25 years old, he's old enough to be my son. He forgets about stuff all the time. If I don't put a task and I don't write it, he says, bro, you never wrote a task for that. I says, yeah, but I told you. I said, yeah, but you didn't write a task for it. So I know now I write tasks, and he doesn't. If I send him a message, it'll get buried. He'll forget about it. So I learned how to manage him. You got to hire people who are managers because guess what? That route, the way you have to think about it is that route is a store. It's a profit center. And everybody has to treat it like they got to manage the route, manage the client, manage the inventory, manage their time as if it was their own. So all this week I've had very valuable lessons. I learned what my company, I don't want my call center to be like, the salespeople saying yes to everybody. I will pay somebody a salary when they come up to be my salesperson, and I will pay them a salary with a handsome commission, but I will pay them to walk away from that business so they don't get punished. Not straight commission. Salary plus commission. I want you to write good business that sticks. When I was in sales, I wrote good business that stuck. I want you to write good business. If you walk into a house and that's a hoarding situation, and you see that we're never going to satisfy that customer, I want you to be free to walk away from that. A technician walks into a home and says, look, bro, this is an impossible situation. I don't know why the salesperson, hold on, sales guy, text on the phone, I want to know why the situation is like this. Why did you sell it? You can't muzzle an ox while he's treading, but you can't penalize them and make it purely about commission. So how do you build a culture? And the culture comes with lessons. It comes with hard lessons. You build the culture of your people by the people you hire that match the culture. You bring on clients that match the culture. If the client isn't a fit for the culture and for your service, you let that customer go, and he can find a better company that can service him the way he wants. If a customer wants an inside-outside service every single time, we're not that company, Why do we sell it? We know that in the sales process. So this is why I have very little cancellation. Our contract cancellation rate is 4%, and it's 4%. You know why? Because of bad documentation on the sales part. Because the customer wanted a one-time service, it was written up. Because the customer, yeah, I want a maintenance service, but then they changed their mind and they canceled afterwards. Because it should have been sold as a one-time service. Now it's just a matter of reporting, and we have bad data, not because of that. Our receivables are doing awesome because I'm on receivables like a hawk. I'm watching cash flow like a hawk. Now I'm out there selling my butt off. And I've decided I'm going to be a businessman with a conscience, but I'm going to be a salesman too, because what I do best is sales. But I got to be honest and transparent with you and with me and with everybody around me that I am most afraid, and I've been most afraid in the last year of my success, not my failure. Why? Because if I go out and sell, I'm going to create a ton of business where I couldn't hire people, and I had to then do it. I was not in the mind frame because of my mother's death, my divorce, and I was dealing with chronic fatigue where I couldn't physically produce and work 80 hours a week like I used to. And I don't want to go back to that. So I decided if I go out and sell, I'm going to end up having to do this because my guy can't handle it. He can't handle all of this. I got to do it. I don't have the mind frame to do it. Therefore, I'm going to back off. What I did was smart. I raised my prices. So now I only had to do 2 sales, but I made the same amount of money as if I did 3 sales. Now I'm going into doing what everybody that grows has to do to grow. And that is figure out where the sweet spot is in the pricing so that you can close 80% of the business. Not 50, 80. When the customer comes back and says, we can't solve it, here's what I do. I give the customer their money back. And I said, we're so sorry that we failed. It's our fault. Give the customer their money back and walk away. And take the 80% of the business that sticks. It's simple. My reviews have gone up because I've been on my reviews like a hawk. I had meetings with people and said, bro, you need to get your reviews up. I automated my review process. Now we're getting reviews on a steady basis. People are calling, I read your reviews. You have amazing reviews about how you're a genius and how you were a teacher and how you're a borderline, professor. And you know what? I'm getting school teachers that are calling me and saying, I want you to do my best control. Why? Because I built a model that attracts people that want that kind of consulting, that want to feel safe. They don't want just a spray inside service. If you want an inside-outside spray service, I can give you the number of 241 companies that will do that if we can't service you. Simple. So I decided I'm going to be a salesman. Because when I used to have an infrastructure and I had a support system and I was in sales, I was a lion. And I became a lamb. And the entomologist part of me is struggling. I said, you know what? I now phrase it differently when I talk to the client. I still tell them the same thing in a different way, that it doesn't feel like they're forced to do something. It's their decision. And I make it sound like it's their decision. So they're buying from me. I am not doing a lot of selling because of the way I phrase it. The way I phrased it before was very limiting, but it was limiting on purpose because I had to sell higher price services to be able to make the same income, to be able to cover all my bills, work 30 hours a week, and not kill myself. Now I'm going to hire people. I'm going to use different tactics. I'm going to bring in part-time people and make it sound like gig work because everybody wants to be in the gig economy. And make it sound like gig work, like you can work your own hours, set your own schedule. My guy does that. And he's highly productive, and it's a system I tested. It took me 2 years to perfect it, to perfect the recruiting system, the training system, the hiring system. I'm going to be talking to Michael over at Perfect Follow Up. I believe it's Perfect Follow Up. I had looked at his software before. It's really good, and it's great for this kind of stuff to follow up and use it for recruiting and use it for recruiting customers and following up and automating that whole follow up process with potential recruits, potential employees, potential customers, and now I forgot his name. I'm sorry, Michael. I forgot your name. Uh, really nice guy, and I want to have him on the show and talk and have a little podcast about what his software does. He gave me a free trial before. I wasn't in the mind frame to even test drive it. It's a very in-depth piece of software that has a lot of bells and whistles, and I just didn't have the time. So a lot of things are going to change this year. I've been talking to guys who have grown companies now. You know, guys like, I'm watching Polite Pest Control on what they're doing. A lot of you are going to go to their website and disagree with them. It doesn't matter. Travis Bottoms is doing a bang-up service at marketing. Another guy that's doing a bad marketing, and bad as not as in bad, but bad meaning good. He's over in Arizona, and now I just lost my train of thought. I mean, that's why my brain works. I need more cigars. Oh, great, my lighter isn't on. Come on. I don't know why it's sparking inside. I can see it. Gotta watch it and put this thing too close to my face. Old door-to-door guy. He's been on the podcast. I can't remember your name, bro, and I can't remember the name of your company. I just drew a freaking blank. So I've been watching, and I got people who have built $3 million businesses who call me on a weekly basis and show me their growth, show me what they're doing, and they're doing great. And I've learned from everybody. You know what? I was having this conversation. I'm actually usually the dumbest guy in the room. I am. I try to go into rooms where everybody, the pesky kid's here, and they applaud me and stuff. And that's wonderful, and I'm humbled by that. Truthfully, because I am truly usually the dumbest guy. I went to the Paul Bello conference. I was probably the dumbest guy in that room. The people around my table are all built. Every single one of them had 5, 6, 10 employees. They were thinking I had a bunch of employees. No, I don't. I'm more of a technical guy who knows how to teach and train. And I was the dumbest guy at that table. But you know what I've learned? I don't care to be the smartest guy. I care to be surrounded by the smartest people. That I can learn from all of them. And then I can come and tell you what I've learned. And I can teach other people what I've learned from them. I don't have a PhD in anything except, I'm the chief everything officer. I know how I want to build my company. I know what I'm idealistic. And that's my biggest problem. That I'm overly idealistic. I'm not narcissistic at all. I'm not a sociopath. I'm not a brilliant marketing guy. I'm not any of that. Like I said, I'm usually the dumbest guy in the room. And I surround myself, but I learn from everybody. I listen to everybody. I will disagree with a lot of things they do. I understand why they do it. I understand why they have to do it. I talking to a guy the other day who's going to be signing off on my termite license. He's got 4 technicians. In a private conversation, he tells me, you know what I want to do right now? I want to tell all these guys to go get their CPO licenses and start their own business. I'm done. I want to retire, and I want to just go out and service my accounts. My house is paid for. Everything is paid for. I don't need anything. I want to sell the business and I want to get out, and I just want to go back to being a solo operator and do this. This is a man with a great heart. He's a beautiful human being. I've known him for years. I taught him a lot of things in lawn and ornamental. That guy was doing pest control in Cuba since 1985. He's brilliant. He's an entomological person. He's not a business person. He can sell. He's a good salesman. And that's where we struggle. Can we be good at everything? No, we got it. The people that I know are growing have what I've learned. You had to do certain things at one time that was very unsavory to get to this platform, and then do something else where companies that their culture was crap, they were firing their 100% turnover, yet they were growing like bang up. 30% cancellation rates, 100% turnover on their employees, managers quitting, and they were narcissistic and basically didn't care about the human side of things. They couldn't feel empathy. Yet they've grown big, to $3-4 million now. Everything is about a balancing act. The guys that I know are growing, there's some guys like Travis Bottoms. He just had a really neat, and I'm giving him a plug because we've messaged back and forth. We've never talked. I like to get him on the podcast. He said they're doing a bang up job at the marketing stuff I always wanted to do, and I'm going to talk to my creative guy and start doing that kind of stuff here. But he has partners, so you bring in people that can complement what you're missing. That's what a partner does. He's got to bring cash to the table. He's got to bring an expertise like sales or marketing, something you can't do, and be able to scale your business. Or he's got to be willing to be the technical guys and partner and say, I'm going to be technical while you handle all the sales and marketing, and I'll be technical, but technicians are a dime a dozen. You can get them. Compared to finding good salespeople. I was just having a conversation with a guy who says, hey, I just hired this sales guy. The other company fired him because, and I know both owners, company fired him because he had a non-compete and he was siphoning off salespeople to come over, and I got a cease and desist letter, and I had to fire him. The other company hired him. He goes behind his back because he's not making the money he was making with the other big company. Goes around his back, wants to go to the other company. The guy's condescending to his wife and his daughter and these things. And these are private conversations. There's a lot of things going on. I won't give those names out. And this is stuff, but I get this all the time. And I love both of these people dearly. I do. They're great people. And I learned not to judge their shortcomings. One guy is just brilliant. They're both brilliant in their own right. And I said, what would you do? I said, I would not keep that guy. The culture you're building, he comes from this culture of a super large regional chain to a company that is cutthroat growing at hyper speed at 100% a year almost now. 50% a year they're growing. And you're coming into an environment where you're a family business, you have a different culture, that guy doesn't fit. I would fire him, not bring him back. You can't trust him anymore. And that's it. And when you do it, it says, bro, I learned, I made a mistake. Everybody learns. These are the expensive lessons that we have to learn and have the stomach to eat those $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 mistakes as a business owner, and then move on and learn from it and do it differently. And you got to do it 2 or 3 times differently. And every time you fail, you learn a lesson. But what a lot of guys have is that they're not willing to pay the price. Those lessons come too expensively. The family can't tolerate those expenses. They can't stomach it. They're not risk takers. They're more safer operations, but he's growing. He's got 3 technicians plus himself. Wife runs the office. Daughter helps in the office too. It's a family business. So these are the real life issues. Forgive me if I mention these things to some people, but I don't try to give enough detail to hide identities because, you know, they don't want us talking about it, but I don't mention their names. They still call me all the time. They tell me, and I never do that. I try to talk about the good things I see people doing, and I mention their names, and I give them props for what they're doing because I love what they're doing. Um, I'm sure inside workings of those companies that I talk about that are good, I don't know the inside workings. Miche was on this podcast. He's growing. He gave a full disclosure of how he's growing it. 90% of you one-time solo operators will totally disagree with him. But he's growing. The guy's a sales. He's a door-to-door sales guy. At the end of the day, that's his DNA. That's who he is. So understand that. Let's not criticize the methods of what other people are doing to grow, because a lot of the times we don't understand their DNA of those people. We don't understand the struggles they faced in life. Some of these guys come from homes where the father was very abusive. Some of these guys that have made it on their own didn't have, they had the reason that they're sticking it now to their parents and they're growing these businesses the way they're growing is because their fathers told them they would never be anything in life. We don't understand the depth of a person's soul. The Bible says the heart is deceitful among all things. Who can understand it? You're married to a person for 8, 9 years, and you thought you knew that person, and that person automatically just changes. They do things out of character. We got homes today where 50%, 70% of the kids that grew up in this generation grew up without a father. They don't know what it's like to be a man, to make man decisions. They might make terrible husbands until they're in their 40s because they have to learn what it's like to be a man. So we're blaming a lot of these young people, and I minister to a lot of young people, and this is why I have this position, is because most of the time when I used to sit down with a parent, they complain about their kid, 90% of the time it was their fault. It wasn't the kid's fault. It was their fault. Father decided he wanted to be a sperm donor and provide a paycheck only. And that kid never knew his father. He didn't have a role model in his life to show him what it's like to be a man, what it's like to be a real man, and what it means to be a man. And what we have is the social media classification today of what a man is. We got TV shows that show men as stupid and incompetent and women that have to make all the decisions. And why is that? Because we have an entire society of men who grew up without fathers. And let me tell you something, mothers, single mothers, I am the product of a father dying at 5 years old on me. I remember the day my father died, I saw him go down. And my mother had to be both a mother and a father. And let me tell you something from a man's perspective. You can't be mother and father. There's no way that you can provide a male role in the life of a man and neither in the life of a young lady, of a girl. Women tend to look for things in a man that reminds them of their father because of who father was. When you don't have a father, you don't know what you're looking for in a man. And today, your career is a mess. You're not going to school. You didn't decide on a career. You haven't done anything because, and I'm talking to women who raise their children and says, I don't know what I did wrong. What do you mean what you did wrong? You didn't have a husband at home who decided he wasn't going to be a husband. He had a whole bunch of issues. You raised the kids on your own. You got your career. You gave them the best education. You provided a college education for your kids. And your kids don't know what they're doing in life and they're already adults. How is that your fault? If we have a problem where we can't find people to work and kids don't want to work and nobody wants to work, I got men in their 30s that they don't know what it's like to clean a vehicle and keep a vehicle clean because they didn't see it. I've seen imperfect homes where every home is imperfect. They were dysfunctional, but they were together, and the kids are somewhat functional. We got a lot of problems in society of entitled people, entitled in society, but they're a product of the way they were raised. It's both nature and nurture. If they saw their father with no backbone to take anything on at home, and mom made all the decisions at home, and you wonder why that kid comes to work and he's the way he is. He has to be told what to do because that's what he learned at home. Mom tells him what to do. If he loads the dishes wrong, you did it wrong. There's no right way to do anything in that home. So since there's no right way to do it, I'm not going to take any chances. Every time I take chances, I get hammered. This is why I like working with young people. This is why I like working with millennials. This is why I'm looking at Gen Zers. Because at one point, they need a role model, and a lot of the times I provide a role model. But that's what I was wired to do. I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm saying that I have empathy. I try to put myself in the other person's shoe to understand why it is and what can I do to help. When I've done everything I can to help you, and you refuse to take responsibility, and you refuse to change, and you refuse to do anything about it, then I have no choice but to get rid of you. And sometimes get rid of people out of my life completely because they're toxic. Right now, I have zero patience for toxic people in my life. I got customers who have become toxic over the years and unrealistic after I've been with them for 10 years. They're getting old. They've had a million problems. They've had divorces. They're bitter in their life. And because they're bitter in their life, everything transfers in their life. What I've done is guard my heart against that so I don't become bitter, so I don't become like that, and guard against that so I don't change. So I can continue to produce at a high level, to function at a high level, to do what it is I do best. And that is, my friends, a lot of what we're experiencing in society. And the generation that talks about tolerance has become so intolerant about not getting what they want in life and expecting everyone to cater to them because they're 24, 25 years old and they're at home and they don't throw out the trash. They don't mow the lawn. They don't clean up after themselves. Mom and dad does everything for them, thinking that they're doing them a favor. And this is why we have a generation that has no work ethic because it's taught at home. Every societal problem is usually a home problem. We have accepted the fact that it's okay for people to say, I can raise my kids on my own. I don't need a man. It's not okay. That's not the intent. And when you go into relationships now, where relationships become about, listen to me carefully, relationships become about domestic partnerships, where this is about me living a better life and having things and living comfortably. It has nothing to do about love, because love is an action. Love is a verb. Love is a decision. Love is not a feeling. Your feelings change like the wind, because we have so many people I'm dealing with that are dealing with bipolar disorder. They're up and down, they're up and down, they're up and down. They're unstable. The Bible says, and a person that is double-minded is unstable in all their ways. Literally, it means it comes from the word that we get schizophrenia from. The Bible has a ton of advice that is practical, that is not religious. That if you learn to get the religious blindfolds off, religion has done such damage to people, especially in Western culture, where you have this movement of people that preach to others about purity, yet themselves never reach it. That are phony, mind controlling people, cult leaders. Most churches I go to in Miami that are Hispanic are nothing but cults. That's a reality. The pastor is a cult leader. This goes for every denomination. Whatever the prophet says goes, whatever the apostle says goes. We have religion through history slaughtering people and killing them and then saying they did it in the name of God. I know you're going to go back to the Old Testament and you're going to say, but the Jewish people did the same thing. So you need to read your Old Testament before you really have that understanding of what happened. You have people behaving in ungodly ways towards other people, using religion as the excuse because they've become self-righteous and self-holy and have created a standard that doesn't exist in the Bible. So when people talk to me about all these problems they're having, I'm not judgmental about it. This is why they talk to me about it. People who were molested by pastors and priests that they trusted. Listen, I was involved at a very young age, at 14. One of the pastors was gay, and we suspected he was a pedophile. A couple of kids stayed over. He says, bro, I caught him over me with a flashlight, looking underneath the sheets at my underwear. And from that point on, none of us went over to his house anymore. I've been through that. Pastors who, had a lot of problems. Most pastors I've gone to churches have closed because the pastors had deep problems and the church closed down. Instead of saying we're all imperfect, I'm here to teach God's word, here's what we should be doing, but we all miss it. You put these pastors on pedestals, and when they fall nasty. So most of the problems people have with me, the fact that I claim as a Christian, then they throw it back on my face and saying, yeah, but what you said was very ungodly for pastor, and they use all these terms like, I'll goof around in groups and say certain things, and they'll judge me for it. It says more about you than it says about me, brother. I guarantee that if I followed you for 30 days and recorded your life, you would be totally ashamed. So understand, I'm not casting stones. I truly believe in ministering to people's lives, helping them grow. I surround myself with people that help me grow. When I get involved in toxic relationships and I already see the red flags, I immediately cut it off. I don't want to live the rest of my life in misery because I had to take the money and put up with people's crap and eat a mile of their crap because somehow they dangled the carrot in front of me. There was a line in a movie about living a life of FU, and pretty much that's where I'm at right now. I just don't care what it is that you dangle in front of me. I got a free choice to say no and say, no, I will do this because it's the right thing to do by people. When we make a mistake, we own up to it because we make mistakes in business all the time. We take responsibility, we make it right. But we will not allow people, anybody, to abuse our employees. We will not abuse our employees. We will not abuse anybody around or abuse their relationships. Whether it's a vendor relationship, whether it's a financial relationship, whether it's a customer relationship, whether it's a family relationship, we stick to principles that are tried and tested. I got one the other day, how are you going to treat that attic for dry wood termite? Well, we're going to spray it with Termidor. The whole attic? Yeah. I said that you can only do spot treatment. I know, but we're going to do that because we don't care. Then I got people telling me, we're going to spray Termidor in the whole house and screw it. You know what happens? We see it every day. My goal is, if I taught you to do it the right way, and at least let's not violate the label. What do you want? I love you. Let's not violate the label. Let's have integrity in our sales. Let's have integrity in how we deal with employees. If you can't manage employees, then get a manager that can. Learn how to do it. Or don't do it at all. Those are choices. We all have choices to make. Nobody can say I have no choice in how I do things. I have a choice. I have a choice if I keep that customer, if I take him. I got a choice if I stay in a relationship. Every problem that we have, guys, I want to end with this. In business, has to do with relationships. How do we manage the relationships? And how do we set standards in our lives and around us so that people know exactly who we are, what we're about, what we expect, and that those expectations are realistic. We have a society with unrealistic expectations about realistic expectation about career, about pay, about relationships, about marriage, about business, about owning a business. And when those expectations aren't met, which aren't realistic expectations, they were conjured up expectations in your mind based on your ideals, and young people are very idealistic. When it doesn't work out, we're disappointed. The way you stop getting disappointed is by learning to be realistic. In the multitude of counselors, there is security. When you surround yourself with good counselors that can tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, then you make better decisions, then you do things better, then your expectations are realistic. It's like when a guy tells an SEO guy, so you give me a guarantee that in 30 days, if I pay you this amount of money, that I'm going to rank. And the salesman, we're going to get you ranked right away. 6 months later, you're not ranked. You have unrealistic expectations. You wanted to hear that. You forced it out of that sales guy instead of just saying, look, if you can't get me from here to here, and this time frame, what is the realistic? Well, we have to do this and we have to do that. And when you get down to it, I just paid a guy $3,000 to do my SEO for Google My Business only. And it's $600 a month to manage Google My Business, to rank locally. It took him 3 months when he told me it would take 30 days, but it wasn't his fault. But yet it was partially his fault because he dropped the ball and I had to keep calling him back. But he hasn't charged me. But in the meantime, I've lost about $30,000 worth of business. However, he is the best SEO guy that I've had. Whenever I call him, he communicates with me. He gives me advice on what to do, what not to do. And he hasn't charged me realistically for monthly because he hasn't fixed the original problem. Why? Because he can't find people, because he has to keep saying yes to build up his business. He struggles between being the sales guy and the technician. And everybody is struggling. And you got to understand that every business is struggling with the same thing. Everybody is having the same demons to battle. So you decide, what did I decide? That garage door company isn't going to do it. Screw it. You know what I believe? My father owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He can make all grace abound toward me. He supplies all of my needs according to his riches and glory in Christ Jesus. He says, I am your shield and your strong tower and your deliverer. So when a guy screws me out of $10,000, God gives it back to me. When a guy screws me out of $1,000, God gives it back to me. He makes a way where there is no way. This is called living in peace. This is called Zen. When the marriage doesn't work out and she wants the house and the business and goes after everything, God takes care of me. God prospers me. But when a blessing comes in disguise, but I have no peace with it, that wasn't a blessing. I kill it right there. As good as it looks, I shoot it in the head. It's not a blessing. I hope this helps you guys, encourages you. It helps you in the difficult times because they're going to be there. Surround yourself with people that are going to tell you the truth before you start the business. When you're in the business, when you're going through the hard times. Stop asking people that don't know anything about business to give you advice. Take the advice from the people that know. You got to learn to eat fish. I said I listened to about 10 counselors, and I listen to all of them. I take what I agree with as far as ethics and morality and things that can actually be done, and then I implement very quickly what can be done. The key is implementation. What can I implement now? I'm just having with my SEO guy, and he wants to do with my media guy, he wants to do all these great things, but then he gets stifled by paralysis by analysis, where he wants to do great things, but since the great things can't be done, why don't we take the small wins? So now I got to guide him and say, no, let's not do this. Let's do this little easy win over here. Let's do these little easy wins over here and take the easy wins. These big projects, let's just nibble at it a little bit at a time or not do them at all until we're ready to get started. That's how we're getting it done. I have big, hairy, audacious goals, but I got to realize that most people can't manage. If I give him a vision, he starts running this, bro, I put 40 hours and this thing isn't working. I says, why did you put 40 hours into something without talking to me about the struggle? Because he thinks it's a reflection on him that he can't get it done. Where I am great at strategy, he's good at tactics. I can see the big picture, he gets tunnel vision. That's leadership. That's management. And a lot of you guys can't handle the management part. I just had a guy the other day. He says, bro, I have all these accounts. They're a mess. And now I fired the guy and figured out he wasn't doing the job. And I said, that's all on you. Why? You managed by abdication and you just threw him out there and you let him do it. And you didn't put in parameters in place to spot check. You weren't calling those customers to find out what he was doing in the home. And you would have found out if you were just spot checking. Take 1 out of 5 accounts that he did, give him a call. Go back and said, I'm going to do the follow-up on this account that you did. No. Why? Because what happens with the small guy? I just have another one that's having the same problem. The guy started out great. A month later, the guy's not even doing 50% of what he's supposed to do. Now he's been in the hospital, heart pain, stomach problems. My poor friend gets COVID. He's having to call his customer. I don't know when I'm going to make it there. That's the reality of owning the business. You got to work the 80-hour weeks. A lot of you guys don't have support at home. Your wife says, that's your business. You got into it. I don't want nothing to do with it. But I expect a paycheck every week because I'm not going to live a life of struggle. And you end up with a trophy wife that can't handle living in a lifestyle less than what you've provided. She can't handle having credit card debt, and you got to put $30,000 on credit cards to make this happen. How can two walk together if they don't agree? That's a biblical principle. I told them that. I said, the problem with you is you keep putting warm bodies in a truck. You don't have a system to hire, evaluate, recruit, train, and retain people. You put a warm body in a truck because everybody says, I'm a great employee, you can trust me. Nobody's going to say, oh, by the way, I'm a crappy employee, you can't trust me to do anything. Everybody's a salesman when they need a job because they're looking out for themselves. They got to put a paycheck because they've got a wife that's saying, you better go out and get a job or I'm going to leave you. Everybody's under pressure. Everybody's got pressures and things they need to do. Everybody is living a life of illusion. I can't drive a less car. What is everybody going to think about me? Why don't you drive a used car? Why don't you live in an apartment? Can you sell your house and go live in an apartment? Take $100,000 out of your house, go live in an apartment, start your business, and eat crap for 5 years. Oh, my wife could never do that. We can't do that. Sorry, bro. You got golden handcuffs. You got a trophy wife, and when you stop winning trophies, she's gone. Those are realities. Too much pretentiousness going on. Too many guys bragging about stuff they're not doing, that they're not accomplishing. Everybody's heard I've got 2 employees. I've never said I've got 10. I've never said we're doing these great things. We're making $1 million. I don't go around, look at my new Lamborghini. If you can't afford it and rent it for the day and show it off. People are doing stupid stuff. And everybody's living an illusion. And the illusion is shattered and your life is destroyed. Let's get real, folks. This is Frank the Pesky wishing you a spectacular day.